Phillip, what's going on, man? Welcome to Breakthrough Society.
Hey, Irvin, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man, for sure, dude. I know we met for the first time back in when was it? April? Yeah, April 29th,
Yeah.
30th for the Million Dollar Mastermind.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome getting to meet you in person and meet a lot of other people we've been seeing online. Really enjoyed that event as well. I'm not sure which I enjoyed more, the event or meeting the people
Yeah.
that I feel like I've known for years.
Yeah.
Both were pretty awesome, though.
Yeah, dude, like whenever you meet everybody there that, you always talk to online, it's like the reunion with your long lost family or something, right?
Yeah. And it's just crazy how we could have such a good connection with so many people that we've never met in person. I don't know about you, but I've never experienced that where it's all these people I met online and I feel so close to them. And then when you meet in
Yeah.
person, yeah, it's just like family or really long lost friends you hadn't seen in years,
Yeah.
which was really surprising because you'd think it'd be the opposite, that people you meet in person when you hadn't seen them in a while, you see them again, that you had that awesome connection versus just online.
Yeah, for sure, man. I get that same feeling. But anyways, man, first tell the audience who you are and what do you do right now?
So my name is Phillip Sessions. I currently work at BMW. I'm actually making a transition at the moment from being a controls engineer there, so automating the process of building the cars in the body shop, to being the leadership and transformation specialist at BMW. So I'm going to make a huge change from engineering to HR. But for those of you that maybe you do follow me on social media, if you don't, it's really not that big of a change because I talk about leadership and mindset all the time on my social media platforms. And I'm starting a coaching business, well, two coaching businesses, one on my own where I'm helping engineers become better leaders, better communicators, and build a stronger mindset. And then I'm doing group coaching with a mutual friend, Trent Bray, which is
Yeah.
Hustle Habits. My solo coaching is entrepreneurs, and then Hustle Habits with Trent Bray, where we're helping people build better habits. So that's just a little bit about me. Also from the Houston, Texas area, and then moved over to Greenville, South Carolina about 6 years ago. And I jokingly say that I'm stuck over here now that I'm married to a South Carolinian and she's not moving. We literally moved across the street from her parents. So she's literally not wanting to move
Yeah.
away from home. And yeah, so I'm stuck here now, but I love it.
So that's a huge change, man. South Carolina and Houston, right? Like
Yeah.
what sparked, I guess, what sparked that idea of you wanting to move?
So I was actually laid off from oil and gas back in 2015. Oil and gas very cyclical, and got laid off. And for about 3 months, I didn't have a job, and I was probably about 2 years removed from college, so I didn't have a lot of experience. Very green engineer, and I had applied for an interview and got through the whole process at Schneider Electric there in Houston, one of their locations, and they ended up going with somebody a little bit more qualified. Go figure. But they said they really liked me a lot and wanted to bounce my resume around internally. So I said, hey, why not? I've been without a job for 3 months. Let's figure
Yeah.
something out. And one came up in Seneca, South Carolina, out near Clemson University, about 15 minutes west of there. And so I went out there, checked it out, said, hey, this sounds like a fun adventure to go out to South Carolina. Always expected myself to go back to Texas, go back to the Houston area where my
Yeah.
family lives, and then just got stuck out here. That's pretty much, that job brought me out here, but I've made some bounces around since then to now working at BMW.
Yeah, that's nice, dude. That's like I know a lot of people that have traveled for work.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean they eventually just go back, you know. But like I'm from like the deep south part of Texas, so the pay down there and the housing and everything's very cheap.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so everybody leaves to West Texas, Louisiana for the refinery stuff like that, because that's where the big
Hmm.
money is. But they just eventually come back. Everybody that I know eventually does come back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've done my fair share of travel too. Not doing as much these days, but it is nice to be in one spot. And I do wish I could come back to Texas, but I do really enjoy it over here. It's nice being close to the mountains, being close
Yeah,
to non-brown water for the beach.
Yeah, dude.
So
Like
it
Galveston.
is very beautiful over here as well.
Yeah, and like, dude, between if you would ask me, you want the mountains or you want a brown beach, brown water beach, man, mountains all the time, dude,
Yeah.
and all day, every day. Like
Yeah, now
that's
these aren't like the Rockies over here. They're a
yeah,
lot smaller, but they're still just as well, maybe not just as beautiful, but they're beautiful in their own way as well. Although I do love the Rockies and love going out there to Colorado and Utah as well.
yeah, man. But I mean, I would have probably stayed there too. That's also one reason that I moved to Austin now. I used to
Hmm.
live in Houston for 2.5 years, but the reason that I moved here to Austin was because of the nature and the hills. And I mean, it's not mountains, right? But it's hills and the lake, and it's just beautiful out here, man. And if you compare Austin to Houston, Houston's just the big ass fucking city.
Yeah, man, it's just a concrete jungle there in Houston. So
Yeah,
yeah, Austin was an awesome move for you, and you did it right at the right time, it seems, because everybody's starting to flood in over there too. So you actually, that you maybe you planned that, but
yeah,
yeah, it's beautiful city over there. I do like Austin a lot. I visited several times. I could never live there though; it's just too liberal for me, especially now being in South Carolina. I mean, you think like Texas is conservative, uh, it's more conservative over here. It's really weird. Like in a different way, though. You
yeah.
really feel like you're in the South when you're here versus in Texas. Even though you are in the South, you're not like in the South. I don't know how to
It's
explain it, but it's a
some
different kind of Southern over here for sure versus Texas. But I think
yeah,
it's because the big melting pot. Everybody just loves Texas, and really Texas is just its own thing too.
yeah, yeah. I get you, man. So
Hmm.
what was the? I know we're talking about the $1 million mastermind. What was your biggest take from that?
Man, my biggest takeaway wasn't really from what was said at the mastermind necessarily, but as I've been around these events, they all talk about making your seat at the table, or Jesse Itzler
Mm,
talks about that, making your own seat at the table. And it really made me think about make my own table. Why wait to be able to get that seat at the table? And of course, I still want to be able to collaborate with some of those awesome guys that are at those tables that are quote unquote better than me, higher than me,
yeah.
but I also want to create my own table and bring people to that table as well. So that was my takeaway is creating my own table versus bringing up my own
Mm,
chair. What about
yeah,
you?
dude. Uh, Man, one of my favorite speaker was Sean Whalen.
Yeah, he did
So
good.
yeah, I like the fact that he didn't talk about business. He talked about creating your life and then
Hmm.
creating a business that supports that, freedom, the lifestyle that you want. And I mean, because that's what I'm chasing, man. I'm chasing like to be free. I'm chasing to do what I want when I want, whether it's working, because I like to work, whether it's, owning a ranch like the one that he just bought a couple months ago or whatever. Um, so like that was my biggest takeaway. And another one was that you don't really own a company if
Hmm.
you can't get away for a month or whatever without your business losing money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah, so that
that
was a
was a
good
good
one.
one too. And I did like how the whole event was really more like spiritual relationship based. It was really a breath of fresh air because it wasn't just, hey, you've got to hustle and grind and make that money, right? It was about actually building relationships and building a life that you want to live in instead of just working and grinding. And yeah, you're right about the whole business versus owner of a business. Yeah, are you own your own job or do you actually
Yeah.
own a business? That's very true and something for me to look forward to as I build my coaching business. I know you're trying to work on that already with your electrical business.
Yeah, for sure. And I think of that all the time, man. It's just like, man, right now I just got home prior to us starting like 30
Hmm.
minutes or so, and I'm just like, fuck, dude, like I haven't even got my second workout done, and
Mm.
just so overwhelmed with all these projects going on, and it's like, dude, I can't wait to scale and grow and just bring more guys in, right? To just
Yeah.
delegate more shit.
Well, it'll happen, man, and that's the thing. The things we have to go through right now
Yeah.
actually prepare us for what's to come. I was actually did a video on this, and we always hear that question of like, these famous people, what would you tell your 20-year-old self, right? What would you tell them? To me, if I got the information, say when I'm successful and I'm 40 years old, and I pass that down to my 20-year-old self, that information that will just set me off to be a millionaire right then and there, it's like winning the lottery. My mind is not prepared for all those hardships. But because of having those hardships and those hard times over those 20 years, those 2 decades, I'm ready for the good times. I'm
Yeah.
prepared mentally for that. Whereas if you got that information, you got the, I guess, knowledge lottery, so to say, you're really not prepared for it, and you really just squander it like somebody who wins the actual lottery. I think us having to go through these hard times right now is preparing us for the harder times, but also preparing us for whenever somebody takes over and they start hitting those hard times, we can actually tell them, hey, this is what you need to do, instead of, well, I learned it, but I don't really have the life experience behind it.
Yeah, dude, we had to take those hits early on,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
That
yeah.
way. Yeah, I'm not saying like I'm not gonna say shit is gonna get easy later on, but it'll get easier because you already went through these hard times
Yeah.
in the beginning. That's what I think
Exactly.
about a lot. Yeah, and
Exactly, man. And then you just teach the next person that you bring in, is you've already been through those hardships, and you can help them get through it that much quicker. That's what's great about having mentorship and being in these groups like we are. We get to learn from these guys and apply that knowledge that they teach us without having to go through all of that hardship. Some of it you're just going to have to do no matter what, but some of it we can circumvent because we learn from them.
yeah, and so like now that you're saying this, I was thinking like how you were saying earlier, where one of the businesses that you're creating is to help engineers.
Hmm.
So since I mean you're obviously teaching them shit and coaching them through shit that you already went through,
Hmm.
right? So like what exactly are you like helping them? Because you're talking to a friend of mine, right? Or you're helping a friend of mine.
Yeah, yeah, we've talked a little bit. He's still trying to get through some stuff, but yeah, I've tried to help him a little bit there, but yeah, he's been also really busy with work, so I haven't really talked too much.
Yeah.
But
And,
basically, it just depends really on the person. A lot of engineers struggle with communication, so that's a really a first step we talk about, and then also mindset, because as engineers, we know how to solve a problem. We know how to see that there's a problem and go fix that problem. But we get ingrained just looking into this one problem. We can't look at the big picture. So I teach engineers how to communicate effectively, because speaking engineer to engineer all day long. But sometimes even then, I've had instances where one engineer or one programmer can't speak to another, and I've had to bridge that gap. So helping bridge the gaps there in the communication between engineers or programmers, and also to like HR people, to business owners. But then the broad spectrum too, because as engineers, they're so smart and they have all these products that they could bring to market, but they can't because they can't communicate and they can't look at the bigger picture. So I'm helping them see that bigger picture and to be able to lead themselves and eventually employees into that workforce, because that's a big part of creating the business, is being able to lead others by example and through actions and whatever else is needed within each individual business. So that's what I do, is really help teach leadership skills, fortify their mindset, because we know with entrepreneurship, you get a lot of no's, a lot of things that you don't want to do and you still have to do. And so teaching them that, and then teaching them how to communicate and think of the bigger picture.
so like a main problem they have is they just like stick to their, like they're just like in like just focused on what they're doing like day to day, and they don't. That's all like that's all they do pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. Engineers are very good problem solvers. So if you give them a problem, they can go solve that. But if you ask them to take a look at the grand picture of a project, they have a really hard time doing that. And they have a hard time thinking about everything as a whole. So for them, it's a lot easier for them just to stick in their comfort zone and just focus on one problem at a time. And I've worked on projects with people where I've had to lead the project, being a contractor coming in. This was prior to BMW, because some of their programmers, they could only focus on one problem at a time. They couldn't think about, hey, we have all these other things going on. We have deadlines. We need to work with the customer, talk with them, figure out what's next, what's coming down the road. All they could focus on was that one thing. So I had to lead the project because these programmers could only focus on the one thing.
Mm.
Which is
So
a bad
that's
thing.
like,
And as being a business owner, trying to run your electrical jobs, you've got multiple jobs. You can't focus on one job because you've got several at
yeah.
one time. And so you have to be able to bounce between job and to job. And some of these engineers, they do have separate projects that they work on, but a lot of times they get stuck and ingrained in one project, and then they let the other ones go by the wayside. And so that's what I'm trying to help them understand is that, hey, there's more than this one problem to solve, and you can solve that problem while still looking at the bigger picture.
Mm. So that's like also kind of the problem that is going around in the trades where, well, mainly like these smaller companies, like the technicians, like that's all they do is just like their craft, right? Like they
Mm-hmm.
fix whatever electrical problem they're gonna fix, or they go and install whatever they got to install, and that's it. Like they can't talk to the homeowners, they can't talk to the contractors. So that's when the the business owner or the one that's in charge, that's when they come in and they have to communicate with the homeowner or the contractor, and they have to lead everybody else because all these technicians, like, they don't, and it's like they don't know how to do it, and it's like they don't want to either.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
there's a
like a
little bit
huge
of both
problem.
of that. Yeah, I could see that with the trades. It's like you go in there, and sometimes it's a matter of not being able to explain what you did. Somebody will ask, "Hey, well, what exactly was the problem with my light switch?" Right? Because it kept tripping the breaker or something.
Yeah.
And so like, "Oh, well, yeah, I fixed it." Okay, well, what did you do? And it's like, well, if it was actually hitting a ground wire, the ground was loose, and that's what kept tripping the breaker. But they can't explain that. And of course, the customer might not understand that completely, but being able to explain that, and then also looking at the big picture as well, it might be more than the light switch. You need to look at all of the wiring, and then you can almost upsell the customer. And it's like, hey, I noticed while fixing this problem, I noticed this. Is this something you would like us to look at? I noticed some of this wiring is faulty. Would you like us to take a look at that? But some technicians as well just want to stay and I fix the problem, go on to the next thing and try to look instead of
Yeah.
looking at the bigger picture and saying, hey, there's more here we can do.
Yeah, dude. Like they
Which,
just they just want to get out of there. They just want to go
yeah,
home, dude.
exactly. So yeah, I never thought about that being a problem in the trades industry as well, but that makes a lot of sense. I could see that.
Yeah, and I actually had um I was in a house, I think it was yesterday. There was a plumber in there, and he was doing like something with the gas of the house.
Hmm.
And this guy's like, "Oh man, I'm ready to go home and this and that." And like he was just kind of like in a hurry to leave, and
Huh.
and 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 it's like he didn't really want to work.
Hmm.
But like he knew like he had to work and he had to finish, and then he left, and then we were still there, and then he came back that afternoon, and then I was like, "Dude, you're back already?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, man, the boss told me that I had to come and change this valve. He told me that I was down the street and I just had to come, but man, fuck it, I'm here." And I'm like, "God damn, dude, like, like this guy
Man,
just wants to go home."
that's crazy.
And
Yeah,
then
some of them just want to get paid those hours. But then that's kind of crazy too, because you'd think he'd want to keep working because he's getting
yeah,
paid by the hour, but maybe he's not. Maybe it's by the job. But it is interesting to see how different people's work ethics are.
yeah. And when you were saying like lack of communication, like I just remember too, the day before that he was supposed to fix it,
Mm.
but I believe he needed help to like turn on the valve and check the pressure and all this shit. And he told me, he's like, "Oh man, I had to tell the homeowner that that I'm gonna be back tomorrow, that I can't fix it." He's like, "Oh fuck it," and he just left. He didn't even tell the guy anything, and I was like,
Man,
"Okay." I was like, "What the fuck?" And he just like took off, dude. And I told my guy, I was like, "Bro, like this guy just left. Like he didn't even tell the guy
huh.
anything." And then like 5 minutes later, dude, the homeowner comes out of his room and he's like, "Is the gas fixed?" He's like, "Did the plumber leave?" And I was like, "Yeah, he just left like 5 minutes ago." And he's like, "Oh man." He's like, "Well, I'll talk to the project manager." And I'm like, "Shit, dude." It's like
Man.
that lack of communication, dude, is like shit.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I need to have that communication. That's something for the trades too. They need to look at communication skills because that's an important thing. And I know there's several different business owners that actually have their employees that are in the trades that actually have them dress up and look a little nicer when they engage with the customers. Because I mean, you can get really dirty, especially depending on the job, and look really sloppy. But when you come in and look presentable, it just makes your customer service that much better. Plus, having the technician be able to communicate
oh
properly as
yeah,
well. So it really just helps your customer service. And then I mean, as you know, if your customer service is really well, if you happen to be running behind or something goes on, emergency comes up, you can talk with them and let them know, like, hey, this was going on. And a lot of times they're pretty forgiving, unless they also have some kind of emergency. But that's what communication does, and yeah, it's super important. I don't know why people don't focus on that more. I guess it's just being scared.
yeah, yeah. And I guess like they weren't taught that too, you know. So that's when you
Hmm.
come in and you teach them like, yo, you got to do this shit too, because you can't just work and just focus on this like small part of a bigger picture,
Hmm.
right? Like that's when guys like you come in and coach them, where they have to step back and communicate and see everything that's going on around them too.
Yeah, exactly. And a big thing with that communication, just giving small updates. You don't have to sit here and tell them exactly what you did, how many hours you worked on
Yeah,
this, or maybe it was minutes, maybe it didn't really take that long. But just tell them, hey, I worked on this valve. I'm having an issue getting it to open and close, whatever may went on with it, or I need to go get some more pipe because I ran out. I'm going to go back and I'll be back tomorrow. Hey, there you go. You give them a little update. Took you no more than 10 or 15 seconds, and you're on your way. And they're like, okay, thank you for letting me know. As simple as that. I mean, if worst the case to get pissed off at you, they just, well, it is what it is at this point. I mean, obviously, you don't want to say that,
yeah,
but you let them know and said, I mean, you just have to try and handle however they decide to react. But most people, I would think, would be pretty positive, pretty, not get mad at you about anything. But you never know. People are different.
yeah, yeah, dude. And more like the more that I talk to, guys like you or guys like in Arte, Apex, like all these entrepreneurs, like
Hmm.
the more I realize that there's a lag in not just the service or the construction industry that I'm in, right? But
Hmm.
like any industry, right? Like you go to the store, you go to a restaurant, you go to a hotel, like
Yep.
you see employees, whatever kind of employees that they are, that they lack something, and you like you can notice it, and you're just like, dude, like
Yeah.
you're so like not fully focused on what you're doing.
It's this, man. It's your phone. The phone is what gets in the way. So many people know how to talk, well, somewhat,
Yeah,
over text message. Nobody wants to get on the phone and talk anymore. Nobody knows how to actually have that human to human communication, or even on the cell phone itself talking. So many people just want to text you. And so many things get lost in communication there. And technology, phones are amazing things, but because of that, it's made people lazy. They would rather just text you something real quick and then move on, because we're also about immediate gratification, and we're also very lack of attention. We don't have no uh, attention spans anymore. We can't focus on anything for any length of time, which is so sad, and a huge part of communication as well. Like us getting here on this call, if we're not focused on one another, like you try to talk to me, well, let me send in this text real quick, and you ask me a question. Would you say, Irvin? I've got to then re-ask you, and now we're wasting all this time because
yeah,
you've got to re-ask me the question, and then hope that I actually paid attention so that I can answer it. So yeah, communication is a lost art. So really, if you learn how to communicate, you're probably better than 90% of people out there. So, I mean, that's a good tip for you if you're
for
trying to
sure.
start your
Yeah,
own business or you're trying to get a job somewhere or whatever you're trying to do. If you can communicate, you're going to be 90% better than everybody else. You're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of the competition.
Yeah, dude. And that's like if you're good at communication, you practice that communication, like you just meet more people, and if you meet more people, you can ultimately do more business like that. And
Yeah.
that communication is huge, man. When you were saying that right now, I actually thought about like there's this show, I don't know if you heard of it, that I've been watching. It's Undercover Billionaire.
Uh-huh. I need to buy the second season. I really want to watch it because of Grant Cardone, but I've only
You
seen like
watch?
the first episode. I've got to buy it.
Okay.
Was that pretty good?
Oh yeah, dude. But like, did you see the first season or no?
I've seen the first one. It's been a while, but it's been
Glenn,
a
yeah.
while.
Yeah, so I'm like halfway through the first one with Glenn
Hmm.
Stearns, and I jumped to the second one first, so I watched the whole second one.
Nice.
Um, and that's what it is, dude. It's just communication. I mean, these guys like they go to a different city, and like that's how they start communicate. They go
Yeah.
out and meet anybody that they can find, and that's how they ultimately work on creating this $1 million business, right? But that's what it
Hmm.
is. It's just communicating with anybody around you, anybody that you meet.
Yep. Yep. I
That's
think the
huge.
highest paid profession right now per hour is public speaking,
No shit.
communication.
Yeah.
Man, what like people are making $100,000 a year. Andy and Ed Milet, Andy
Oh
Frisella,
yeah.
Ed Milet, they're making like $100,000, not a year, a speaking engagement, 45 minutes to an hour, getting paid $100,000. Now these are like extreme examples, but a lot of people make $5,000 or $10,000 in a single hour from a speaking engagement. I mean, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy to think, but
Yeah, dude.
it's communication. Clearly, it's important for people to have, and people need to learn that more. And so, for people that are trying to learn communication, one way is get on calls like this, talking with people, get on phone calls. You can do videos on social media. You're already there, so why not just shoot a quick video, do a story if you don't want to stay in there a long time. But as far as a more formal way, I would suggest Toastmasters is very cheap to do that, to go through Toastmasters. So toastmastersinternational.org. There's tons of clubs that are all over the world. You can get into one of those and get involved in that community, that club, and learn how to do public speaking. Learn how to communicate. And like I said, you're going to be way farther ahead if you do those things.
Yeah. Dude, I actually looked into that, but whenever because they do every like Tuesday here in Austin or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but it was through Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
and I went on one of the calls and I was just listening, and I don't know, like the way they were like acting on there. It was like a competition or something, and
Mm.
but they were acting, and there was like three people, and they each like created a script, and they just acted in like a different personality, and it was just like a complete script,
Huh.
and then and then
Interesting.
and then after they're done, they just shut up, and then the judge or the teacher or whatever is like, okay, well, thank you, and everybody just starts like clapping, or I don't know, dude. It was so weird.
Yeah, that's a little different. We've done that is usually you have like an impromptu part. So that's like your table topics. And one time, I don't know if you watched the comedy show Whose Line Is It Anyway? But
No.
basically you get a word and only like one person knows like the word or category, and then based on how that one person reacts, the other people have to start interacting with that. So say I know that like I'm trying to buy a car, but I crashed this car, the other car that I went and did a test drive on from your car lot, and but you don't know what my scenario is and what I'm trying to do. So I'm acting out this scenario and you're just trying to react to that. So that kind of sounds that is. But a lot of times it's like just a random question. And then you have like 1 to 2 minutes to answer that. So impromptu question there. And then there's prepared speeches, usually 3 a night. So about 5 to 7 minutes. And so you prepare a speech ahead of time and then you get evaluated on that speech in the end, which the evaluation is about 2 to 3 minutes, which helps you with effective listening, right? Because another thing we don't know how to do is listen effectively
Yeah.
either. So it's a great way to learn and push yourself to become better at communicating and listening effectively. And there's other roles, so you can learn a little about leadership as well. So the one you were talking about, where like, yeah, thank you for speaking or whatever. That's probably the Toastmaster of the day. So they run the meeting, so you get to learn a lot about being a leader as well. So it's a great way, and I think it's like $120 a year tops. You pay like biannually, and so it's really cheap for a lot of good content that you can learn from it. So I
Yeah,
would check out another club if you had that experience and you didn't really like it, or go back and check it out again. But you can try different clubs, and different clubs do different things. I know one of the guys in my current club, he's actually joining a second one, or probably a third one for him, and it's actually humorous only. So they're only going to do funny speeches in that club. But just whatever floats your boat, right? But just trying to push yourself in different ways.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, yeah, I guess like everybody has their own ways of doing things,
Hmm.
and I was listening to it for a couple, like a good 30 minutes at least. Um, but I don't know, man. Like I just felt like it wasn't my kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
I
it
know
is
you have
more
to be
challenging
approachable.
on Zoom as well. We've been having that trouble when we were online. Now we're hybrid and still kind of weird. But being in person is a lot better. You actually get that engagement from the audience. You see that direct feedback versus trying to look at them on a screen. You're not exactly seeing their body language or anything. So it's a lot better being in person. So if you can find one in person, I would suggest that as well.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out too because that's something I need to practice on. Or everybody does, but
Yeah. Oh,
especially me.
yeah. We all do, man. As I'm
Yeah.
involved in Toastmasters as well. Really enjoy it, and just try to keep leading in that. I'm actually going to be president this year of our club, so
Oh,
looking forward to
nice.
that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. So, what what are your goals, or what do you got planned for later on this year with everything that you're doing, your businesses and stuff?
So, as always, trying to pick up more clients to help out more people, of course. But one of the things, as far as building that table, I'm looking at doing my own event and
Nice.
working on that at the moment. So, trying to finalize that location and time and everything. But that's something I'm going to do down the road here. And September timeframe is what I'm looking at. I'm working on getting on stages as well to speak. So podcast stages, as well as like actual in-person live events, which one of those is gonna be the ones that I'm gonna create. And the biggest thing for me is my child. My little girl is gonna be coming in November. So really excited about that. And so just pushing forward on all these other goals that I have and trying to get those started before
Yeah,
she comes.
it's
And then
exciting.
just disrupts all my schedule for probably the rest of the year. But really looking forward to that the most out of everything.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's exciting stuff, man. Congrats.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, for sure. So, I'm gonna ask you a last canned question, right? But before I
All right.
do, yeah, before I do, just let everybody know where they can find you, man, and everything you're doing.
Yeah, best place to find me is on Instagram or Facebook at Phillip Sessions. That's with one L. You'll probably find me, or you can listen to my podcast as well, which is Entrepreneurs.
Oh, okay, so you rebranded it, or you just
Yeah, I
created
did
a new one?
rebrand my podcast. I was trying to
Okay.
go away from the health and fitness stuff with the healthy living session, so I rebranded to Entrepreneurs. So
Okay,
play on
nice.
entrepreneur and engineer. All
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. I'm gonna link it in the show notes.
right, awesome.
Yeah, man. So the last question I have is, what do you consider your breakthrough moment?
My breakthrough moment, man. That's tough to really pinpoint one thing. I really feel like I've had several breakthrough moments. I would say one that was really changed my life. There was probably two different events. I went to GrowthCon 2 back in 2017 or something like that, I think, or 16, in Las Vegas, and that really started setting me on the path to do the the entrepreneur life, right? The self-development life. That really started getting me there, really more interested and being more intentional with it. But then GrowthCon 3, actually is a funny same event, same guy, but GrowthCon 3 was where I met one of our friends, Tio Bogdan, and he actually introduced me to Arte. And I had kind of seen a little bit about it, but didn't know much. And then he was there and he was wearing an Arte hat, and I asked him about it. And I really feel like that changed my life because I met so many awesome people like you that really helped me realize that I'm not the only one out there that thinks this way. I'm not the only one that's trying to be better and the most elite version of myself. So I would say probably that would be the more pivotal moment, but both of those really just helped me set off on the trajectory that I'm on now and just continuing to improve myself and refine my craft day after day.
Yeah, dude, that's powerful, man. Because like before these groups too, is like you feel like you're alone. Like you feel
Yeah.
like you're the only one, right? Like you're the
Hmm.
only one that thinks like this. Then you get around other like-minded individuals, and you're like, holy shit, dude, these are the right people.
Yeah. Well, and then you get around all these people and you're like, well, I'm nothing, man. I like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything. I haven't been
Yeah.
on this path at all compared to these people. So it's just crazy, but it's an awesome environment to be around. Right? You can't be the smartest man in the room. You can't be the best man in
Oh
the room
yeah.
either. You got to be around people that are better than you so you can keep leveling up.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. You know, I'm glad I met you through the Arte.
Yeah, man. I'm glad we met as well.
Yeah, man, for sure. Cool, man. So yeah, thanks for coming on the Breakthrough Society, man. I enjoyed our talk.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
For sure, man. You have a good one.
You too.